All right, well here's another styling style that's a real favorite of mine. This is a new one that I just came up with this year, but I've really been liking. It's very similar to the other tying style that I already did, but this one uses a lot of beads to hold it together and to be attractive. So we've got beads over here on the side instead of tying knots. Some beads here, a couple of decorative beads in the front. So kind of try to give you a view of the side, and the outside looks kind of the same. Okay, so this is the one. This is now it's off of the foot, so you can kind of see what it's going to look like off of the foot when we're done. What you're going to need for this are some beads, and I've got a lot of beads on this one. You obviously don't have to use them all. I've got a couple different kinds of beads. Just a couple notes about those. These beads that I have on the sides, these are pewter. These are some kind of a pewter bead. They have a large bore hole. I think these have a 6mm hole, which I found to work really well with the size of the laces. These are some nice lamp work, like the glass beads, like the Pandora style beads, but I had to pop the little silver things out of them to actually get them to fit over both. So for the purpose of the tutorial, because these were really hard to thread, even though they're beautiful and I love them, I'm going to just do everything with pewter beads, which are a little bit easier to work with. Alright, well, we'll do just a quick note about how to poke these holes. This is going to involve a different set of holes than you would have seen in the videos, like the basic tying styles. We have these 4 holes up here, which are, I would put the foot pad down to find these, but they're basically in the crook of the toe right here, back behind this knuckle, over here in the crook of the little toe, and back behind this knuckle. And the way that I poke the holes is to put the footbed down. I stand on it because you want your foot to spread out like it would when you're normally standing up. I take that little punching tool and just kind of nestle it right in the crook of the toe, bop it a couple of times just to leave an impression in the foot, but not to actually poke all the way through. Go ahead and do all 4 of them. Nestle that little piece right into those crooks. This one is the hardest one to find, but you can kind of feel it just behind the knuckle. And then just, so I just leave that impression the first time, then I come back with the hammer and actually poke the holes. One more little note about the holes on this particular pair. If you look at these, how they fit my feet, they will look a little different from this first shoe that I showed you. I'm not as crazy about how I poke the hole in the pair that I'm actually working on today. So if those look like they're spread wide apart, they are. These flex a little too much. So I do like to have those holes kind of right up next to the foot. This was an experiment for making a pair that fit better with socks. Alright, so now we'll get to the actual threading. Now one of the things that I like to do is take a little piece of dental floss and hook it on the end of these threads, because it sort of helps me thread through. It just makes the threading much easier than trying to actually fit the lace through the holes. So for our first step on these, we're just gonna, I'm just using that dental floss. You can or don't have to. Pliers work, all kinds of stuff works. But I'm pretty much going down through the outside here. And as you can see, I'm going to have a cat helping me, which I don't think is required, although I don't think I've ever put a pair of these together without some sort of cat help, so I can't guarantee it. Okay, so now I've threaded this through the outer hole. Before I go any further, I'm going to take this, I'm going to go ahead and thread the beads on that I'm going to need to form. These are the beads that form the ankles right here. Depending on the size of your beads, you'll have to kind of get a sense for how many of those you need. I'm going to use 3 on the outside and 2 on the inside for this project. So I'm just going to thread 5 total beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm just threading 5 beads basically along the ankle right now. Don't worry too much about where they land. We're going to fix that in a minute. So the next step is that I am going to pull the other end of this through, and I don't, oh, there's my, see, I've lost my little piece of dental floss, which was going to make that a little bit trickier. So the nice thing about using the dental floss is I make a little knot which slips, so that as I'm pulling on the dental floss, it's actually getting tighter, and it kind of compresses that lace just a little tiny bit. Okay. So I'm bringing this other end of the lace down through the middle hole, or the inside of the ankle hole. So here's what I've got right now. I've got a heel basically with 5 beads stuck on it, which looks a little bit strange. And then the 2 long pieces out to the sides. And these can be, one of these you're going to want to have a good bit shorter than the other, we'll make it the inner one. I mean, everything, of course, you could do this backwards, it would be fine. But we'll make this inner one a little bit shorter. And I think about 20, 22 inches or so for this this inner side lace. The other one will be much longer. So the next thing I'm going to do is just going to be to go ahead and form those ankles. So I'd like to have 3 beads on my outer ankle. So I'm going to take 3 beads to this side. I'm just going to again use that little bobby pin, and I'm going to pull. So I'm bringing the thread around the outside. So the thread, so that the lace is coming around the outside of the shoe, and then just right back up through those same beads. And hopefully it will cooperate. This can be, especially if you don't have very wide beads, this can really be a nightmare. With those lampwork beads, it was really horrible. And another note about this, right here at the ankle, I found that these beads, you'll notice they're pretty thin. It's one of the reasons for using the pewter. They're pretty thin. Because I like to sit cross-legged, and so I was finding them incredibly uncomfortable when I had wider beads right at the ankle. So you may have to experiment a little bit with what you use. Okay, so now I've got this threaded back through. Oops, I think it's not where you can see it so well. I have it threaded around the outside, back through the 3 beads that are going to form the outside. And I'm just going to pull on the various strings, kind of tighten that down. So here's what we've got right now. I've got around the outside edge through the 3 beads. So it's the 3 beads are on both sides of this, which is going to hold that in place. I'm going to now do the same thing for the inside, which is to bring, sorry, try to get this back out where you can see it. I'm going to bring this part of the lace around the outside of the shoe and back up through these 2 beads, one at a time. So I think I said this, these are 6mm internal diameter beads, and these really do work well. Anything smaller than this, and this part of the process is pretty frustrating. Okay, so now it's just a matter of kind of, moving those beads around on the laces until I have them kind of how I want it. So I've got a heel that's wrapped around these 2 through where the laces go, around through the hole and through the beads twice, so that they're holding those in place. Now from here I want to make some adjustments just to make sure this fits my heel before I go too much further. So I'll put my foot in, and I'll kind of play around with that until I get just the right heel size that I want. With these, you can, even after they're laced, the nice thing is that you can still sort of use these beads to make adjustments. So don't fret too much if you're not sure that they're exactly the way that you want them. Alright, so from this point I've got the heel done here. I've got my 3 beads on the out step, 2 beads on the in step. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to string on this outer side. We're going to do the actual lacing part. So my long string, which is on the out step right now, I'm going to throw a couple beads on there. Now, in the shoe that I showed initially, the picture that I showed, this is the one with all those pretty glass beads on it. These would be the glass lampwork beads, but just for simplicity's sake here, I'm going to put these pewter beads instead. So I'm threading 2 pewter beads on this outside. So I'll have the 3 beads that form the outside of the ankle. I've got 2 beads right there next to that. For now, those are just going to kind of hang out. They're not going to. We're going to come back to needing those in a minute. But for now, they're just waiting while we do the rest of the lace threading. And I am readjusting my little dental floss guide here. Okay. All right, so now the lace that's coming from the outside, I'm going to bring to the closer to the heel of the 2 holes on the inside. So right across, it's a nice diagonal, and you'll see. So there are those 2 beads that are floating right now. I'm then going to come up from the back of the shoe, right along that edge, just come up the whole same side, but closer to the toes. Okay, so I've got my diagonal across, I'm up across the back. Now I'm going to come across the toe of the shoe and go in the hole which is further from the heel, go down in the hole which is further from the heel on the outside. So I've got a diagonal, whoops, and this is what I often make this mistake. Don't do that part just yet. we need a couple of beads down there first. So on this part that stretches across the toe, we do need a couple of beads. Those are going to hold some of the decorative part of the lacing. So 2 beads on from here, now go across the toe. I'm sorry, I hope you didn't already thread that and discover you had to change it like I did. Okay, so I've got 2 beads down here. Now I'm going to come up along that same side of the shoe. Okay, so now I have something very similar to what I had in the other video. I've got my heel, I've got something across here, 2 beads on it, 2 beads across the toe, I'm up here. And now here's where we're going to do the, again, the fitting. So, although before we do that, go ahead and put, so you've got the shorter side. This is the side you haven't been lacing yet. It's on the instep. Just throw 2 beads along there too. And the 2 beads is optional. It could be 3, it could be 1. It's, you kind of work that out with the size of your beads and the look that you're. Okay, so now I've put that on and I'm kind of adjusting the tension. I've got this like the way I'd like it. Now we're going to do the rest of the decorative part of the tying on here. So I'm taking this long string. I'm just going to come over this middle and around. Okay, so it's back over here. Now I'm going to thread this back through the beads on the toe. I'm probably going to have to take it off to do that, just because it'll be a little bit easier. So I'm going to come through these 2 beads. Once I've done that, we're going to take a look at it back on again. You'll see this is where that dental floss really comes in handy because getting back through these beads can be a little tricky, especially if they're small. Okay, so now I've got this back on. So now I've come through, let's see, and I'm going to adjust my tension here a little bit more. I'm not crazy about it. You'll probably have to keep adjusting the tension as you go till you find exactly what you're looking for. Okay, so I've come around through here. And now I'm just going to go back over the same way, so kind of back over that same knot. So this thread, if you can follow it, it comes up around the cross thread. It goes this way, up backwards through the beads, and back down kind of around. You know, if it's not exactly like this, I'm pretty sure it isn't going to matter. You can probably get the general idea. You might even come up with something that looks a little bit neater. Okay, so I still have my 2 beads on this side, and now I'm just going to bring this thread up. I'm going to tuck it over maybe that one. So now I've got kind of a nice little knot right there in the middle. I'm going to tie that because I really do want this to kind of stay nice and neat. And now I'm pretty much done. I can now take these 2 ends. I'm going to run them back through these other beads that are on the side of the foot. Let's try to get my fingers out of the way so you can see what I've got here. Just cut these off and kind of run them back through, which is what I did on this finished pair. These I haven't trimmed as short as I could, but just run them back through the beads so that you have 2 strings running through the beads, and there you have it, a cute pair of shoes that hold up really well for running, walking, and whatever else you're doing.